Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. Hope you enjoy your, quote unquote day off. Some of you are testing, some of you have a senior day off, or some of you are working on your college writing applications today. But I'm just going to do a very brief intro to the next chapter, which is about evolution of population. So this standard is called EVOPOP.1. On this particular standard, you're going to learn that evolution, in order for something to evolve, you need some sort of genetic variation. There's only 3 slides we're going to go over today. Got an assistant here, my son Trey. So here we go. First of all, this first slide, we're talking about microevolution. So we're not talking about macroevolution, which is a whole generation or a whole species. We're just talking about micro meaning small. And it's the change in the allele frequencies of a population over generations. And some of you are saying, what does allele mean? Allele is essentially a type or a form of a gene. So for example, like hair color, your allele could be brown, your allele can be red. They usually say dominant and recessive alleles. So for example, for Asians or those of Asian American cultures, our dominant allele is black hair. Okay, so an allele is just a different form. And microevolution means like the frequency of a certain allele changes. So, all of a sudden, let's just say, in my example of Asian Americans, let's just say over many of years, the frequency of red becomes more apparent, and now all of a sudden all Asians have red hair. That's an example of microevolution. This picture is of some dogs, and over time, I think this is an ancestor of a dog right here. And over time, as it's, because of environment or competition and things of that nature, the frequency can change to look more like any of these 4 dogs. That's called microevolution. Darwin, when he first did evolution, his theory descent with modification, he understood that things evolved, but he didn't know how did traits get passed down. So he knew they were passed down, for example, like the beaks of finches, but his question was like, how did these beaks change? How did they get passed down? This sort of was spurred on or solved by a scientist called Gregor Mendel, and he's published a paper on genetics, and he was the one that sort of linked Darwin's theory with genetics. And Mendelian genetics, which we'll talk about later on, actually supported his theory on evolution. And he said primarily evolution has to be because of genetic variation or because genes change. So the last slide today is, how do genes change? When you have offspring on your own, or if you look at your own parents, you don't look exactly like them. Maybe you have parts of your mom, parts of your dad. Even if some of you have brothers and sisters or half brothers and half sisters, you don't look exactly like them. And the question is, why do you not look exactly like them? Here are 3 reasons why genes vary amongst offspring. One is called point mutations. So we're going to get into this later, but DNA is made up of 6 billion sequence of letters or bases, and if you just change one, or just point mutation meaning like freak occurrence where one base changes or one gene changes, if one gene changes, that's called a point mutation. That is a source of genetic variation. Another is called chromosomal mutation. So we're going to learn later about chromosomes. They look like X's, and sometimes when you split apart chromosomes or when chromosomes are changed during the mitosis process, or when we create more and more cells, there can be errors with the chromosomes. So some things can be deleted, some things can be duplicated, disrupted, rearranged. Sorry. They're usually harmful. And the last one, the most common form of genetic variation, is called sexual recombination, which means just because you have a male and female parent, there is genetic variation just by different mom, different dad. Some people say, if you have mixed race or mixed couples, that's inherently a generic variation. But it could be any couple. It could be, an Asian and an Asian. It could be a Mexican and a Mexican. Anytime 2 unique people have offspring, there is genetic variation. The reason why is 3 reasons. One, there's crossing over. So when we talk about in the meiosis process, and again, we'll get to this stuff, there's a bit of crossing over of genes, like your dad's genes and your mom's genes, they sort of cross. On top of that, there's an independent assortment of chromosomes. So when we talk about the chromosome process, there's a random assortment, a random change of different chromosomes. And lastly, there's also random fertilization. So sperm and egg. Females have eggs and males have sperm. And males, they have millions of sperm. And each individual sperm or each individual sexual cell has its own code. So ultimately, depending on which sperm fertilizes the egg, you could have different variations just because a different sperm fertilizes the egg. So again, this standard is very short. You just need to know that evolution is proven or is related to and needs genetic variation to exist. So I hope you enjoyed this short video. Answer the following questions, and then I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.